How's it, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cultured, the podcast. Running gun style. I like
Running
this.
gun.
This
Yes.
is just kind
This
of
is
like,
what I was kind of pushing for,
yeah,
because we haven't done one since for
the
a
last
while.
one we
It's
did
been a
with
few months ago.
with Jake and them, and
Just Jake, right?
just Jake actually, yeah, just us and
The
Jake.
Sad Boys Club.
The Sad Boys Club.
Yes.
That was the one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
held off on releasing part 2 just because I didn't want
It was too deep. Got too
to.
deep.
It did get a little deeper than I had anticipated, but no, yeah, you had something to talk about. It seems like, or it's like there's a lot going on to
Correct.
talk about, and
Correct.
it's kind of like you were like, dude,
Politics.
it's a good time to get one going.
And today, so the Dodgers just recently won the World Series.
Go to
Go Dodgers.
Go
right?
Dodgers.
Yeah. I've been a Dodger fan like my whole life. A Laker fan my whole life. LA sports team fan my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And then just recently was challenged on my allegiance because of the ownership of the Dodgers.
So this is kind of where. So a lot going on politically, a lot going on in sports, and then this is kind of where they mesh together. And we've seen it mesh together before. We've seen it mesh together in basketball and football with the Take a Knee and the Black Lives Matter and everything like that. My stance has always been the same. Separate church and state, separate sports and state.
A lot of people think that
to
way.
be honest with you, a lot of people see sports kind of as the same as a religion. You know what I mean? It's very cultish in a way, and it's very, denominational as far as like your team and things like that. So it's very passion motivated.
Yes.
Right. So it's like keep those things like apart. There's no reason to mix them together, because then you have this fucking monster of passion and opinion and all these things that there's no real, like in sports, at least you have somewhat of a clear winner. You can argue that it wasn't a dead ball. You can argue that, you know what I mean, his foot was on the line. You can argue all kinds of things, you know what I mean? But ultimately, the outcome is there's a winner and there's a loser. Politics is a little different, I think, where there's so much nuance, where it's like you can't really be too much on one side or the other, because you start getting into the conundrum that you're in right now.
Yeah.
Right? So go ahead and explain the conundrum that you're in.
No, I mean, Dodgers owner, Mark Walter, a majority owner, like he's part of a group that owns Dodgers. Yeah, he benefits from ICE detention centers, and he is owner of Palantir. No, he's not owner of, but
Associated with, yeah.
Palantir Technologies.
He profits from it.
Who develops the software to round up most undocumented people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
double whammy.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
And we're over here cheering for him.
Like he's not. Oh, I dabble in it. He's kind of like he can make a strong argument that he's pro immigration, not so much reform, but immigration enforcement.
Yeah.
Right. So
because he benefits from it.
Right.
So
monetarily, not just benefits from the sense of like safer, maybe all the arguments that you can make, maybe safer, maybe less of a strain on the taxpayers and things like that. The other arguments that are made, he benefits from monetarily. Where kind of it's like, the more we get, the better I make out.
Yeah.
Right. Which is shitty. But let's be honest. Whether you're on the left or you're on the right, that's a shitty thing. If you're profiting off of I'd see it the same way as like people that make prisons. You're profiting on other people committing crime and things like that. It's like you're no better than the criminal in my eyes. You know what I mean?
It goes down a very deep thing. It's like, dang.
Right.
And it's something we kind of just avoided, or at least I have. I've just kind of
avoided with enjoying
being
sports.
Ignorant too of things that are actually happening.
Right.
People benefiting from stuff like that. It's like, dang, that is actually happening.
Right.
But and then you can get something more common like sports, like this specific situation. It really threw me off, because this really came to light about like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
For me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known stuff like this is going on.
I mean, we talked about since like Chavez Ravine.
Yes.
The gentrification of Echo Park, all those kind of things that like are Dodger influence. They're
And
it's part of the history.
being a fan of baseball as a kid, playing baseball, and being a fan of the Dodgers and the Lakers, it's just like, it's sports,
Hmm.
you know. But when I'm telling people politically, oh, don't be a contradiction, and I'm over here being a contradiction myself, it's it. So like I was all in with the Dodgers uh, National League Division Series, Championship Series, and then kind of brought to my attention, and I was like, man, it just kind of soured things, right?
Ruined the World Series for you.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you could have told me after we
Yeah,
won the World
exactly.
Series.
And that's because I posted it on Instagram, and a few people were like, yeah, let's just wait a week though, And I get it, and I don't want to be like a freaking stick in the mud, but
Right.
it's something that bugs me if I really sit down and think about it.
Right.
And I've been thinking about a lot lately. So
Yeah,
and
we've
this is
had
just
conversations about it, because again, it's no, I don't know if it comes off on camera, but it's no secret that I am probably more conservatively viewed than you are in a lot of the topics that we go through, which is part of the reason why I wanted to have this podcast. Part of the reason I think the podcast works is because you and I have two different views on things, and we've been back and forth about it. And I think like what the point I was trying to kind of like, not, I wasn't trying to make a point. The topic I was trying to kind of like focus on, or like kind of get your view on, was we're basically breaking it down to morality, right? Where your morals lie, and then the nuance in morality. Is there nuance in morality?
yeah.
Is it right and wrong and that's it? Or is there kind of like it's right up into a certain point and then all of a sudden it stops? Like I can kind of overlook certain shit. You know what I mean? It's like
Correct, yeah.
like red flag type of shit where it's like,
I think a lot of people do that, and I'm not like better than anybody else, but yeah, and I was doing that for a very long time.
do you think it makes you better than somebody else if you have a more distinct, like, no, this is right, this is wrong, and that's it? Does that make you better, or does that make you more close-minded too?
So I think both can be right,
Okay.
because you should be able to have an open mind and hear feedback,
Mhm.
but I think standing on your morals should be
Stand on business.
yeah, standing on business should be, you know, you shouldn't ignore it and let stuff pass just because it's convenient, like this. And I was
Right.
doing that for a long time, like,
Right.
and I was intentionally being ignorant too, because I was like, no, I don't want to go down.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't want to know.
so that I think that's kind of, so that's what stings the most, is that you were being willfully ignorant, not just ignorant.
Correct. Yeah.
When
Well,
you're,
yeah,
ignorant to it, and again, you also didn't know how deep the rabbit hole went
yeah.
until you went down the rabbit
It's
hole, and
like,
that's
oh
what's kind
man,
of
that's
fucked.
kind of it.
Yeah.
Really just not broke my heart, but it soured me on the whole thing. Like where I was just like, man, I don't even want to like this anymore.
Right.
But I do like sports. I watched the Game 7.
Right.
It's a phenomenal game.
Crazy game.
But and I don't want to stop watching sports. But am I going to go to a game and help put my money towards that stuff? Probably still will.
Oh,
but
and
just
that's
do it
where
a lot less. I
that's
guess.
where I mentioned it to you, where I was like, where do you think the nuance like begins and ends? I guess I don't really know how to phrase this, but like, you're giving your money to an organization, right? That person happens to be a part of the organization and benefits from that, but no more nor less than the other ventures that he has, right? So it's like, say he has some ties to, because like when you get down to like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, and I hope I don't get
We're gonna get
CK'd on this,
bro.
I'm gonna get
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk on this because
No.
of bringing these up. But
That's only when you talk about.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't, I'm not gonna even say it.
So when you start getting into those companies that you've heard of, if you're in the conspiratorial world, that these people are basically the devil,
Yeah.
right? These companies that have their hand in every single company. It's like, what do? You just starve yourself then? You just go in a hole and
Very good point. Because
get a farm, and
I could hold my stance with the Dodgers, right, and be like, no, I'm not going to support that. But then go shop at Walmart,
right.
That's
And I think you're being virtuous in the sense where it's like, Walmart, but then Walmart has all the stuff about them taking life insurance policies out on their employees and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then making like, it's like everywhere you go, whenever you have, and this is
if
the
you
downside.
look deep into it,
For all my left-leaning people and all my and all my socialist people, this is the downside of capitalism. The downside of capitalism is greed. You know, and to be honest, the downside of communism is also kind of greed
Greed
and
and
power.
correct, yeah.
You know, like it all boils down to like we're humans are just flawed in that sense, to where once you get too much power, once you or not enough power for, once you get more power than you've had, and you start getting the acquired taste for it, and then you start looking for more power, that's when you start getting into these fucked up situations where basically you become a tyrant in whatever field it is you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're no longer seeing people for the humanity aspect of who people are. You're seeing people for dollar signs and how you can become more lucratively rich off of them and profit off of people.
That's the society that we grew up in, and that's what's happening, and that's the mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
That ego based thought. I do think there is a movement now that spirituality is peaking out,
I think so as well.
and it could just
And
be the space I'm in right now.
it could. I mean, well,
That's what's most prevalent to me right
I
now.
think a lot of it is, well, here's the thing. Me being a very spiritual person, I've been a very spiritual person for a long time. Seeing you talk about some of the things that you talk in the kind of realm of spirituality and kind of like opening yourself up to just what is more than just the physical that you deal with, and becoming more kind of like um, in touch with divinity, you start realizing that um, I started realizing like, oh wow, this must be becoming a thing if someone like Roman is starting to have the same kind of views in the realm of spirituality that I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it is something that is, I've noticed, is starting to like,
It's becoming like a trend.
it's
Like
coming a trend, or it's just starting to like it's the pendulum swinging back the other way.
could be,
Maybe
yeah.
we've gone the other way so far that now it's
People are
starting to
starting to
swing,
waken up.
right, and
Yeah,
now it's starting to like swing back the other way, where people are starting to realize like, you know, ultimately when you get down to it, it's all about right and wrong, good and evil.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and no matter how much you want to put a definitive pin on who the problem is, what the problem is. Is it Trump? Is it Biden? Is it, you know, is it the owner of the Dodgers? Is it, you know, Black Lives Matter? Is it any of these things? You start trying to put a face to it all, but you really start realizing that you're dealing with good and evil, you know, and morality, like we're talking about,
Yes.
you know, and I think the bigger picture is what is what is the framework of morality, you know, and this is of course something that's been debated for years and years and years. It's not like we're going to figure it out on this
Correct.
podcast,
Yeah.
you know, but it's something to think about, where you're just kind of like, is there nuance, and should there be nuance to morality? You know what I mean? Is it kind of like, yeah, it's okay until this point, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, I have a problem with that, you know. And I think it varies for different people, and it should, you know what I mean? Because like you, like I could sit there and be like, come on, Roman, let's go to a game, dude, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
nah, dude, honestly, I'm not into it,
yeah.
and I don't want you to be at the game with me if you're not into it. So there's no reason for me to sit there and push for you to be like, come on, dog. Like I'm gonna get into your moral stance and try to change your moral stance because I want you to be at a Dodger game with me. Like, no,
Uh-huh.
it's like I want you to enjoy the Dodger game with me. If you're not gonna enjoy the Dodger game with me, then it's like, all right, cool. Like, I wish you could be here. I think it'd be fun us hanging out, but it's not gonna be fun if you're just kind of like, this is shitty, you
Yeah.
know. So I think it's important to have that nuance and that ever like changing kind of, or that organic kind of uh, format to morality, because yeah, you might be a born again Christian and think that, you know, everything is black and white and the Bible is this, that, and the other, and not have any kind of nuance or any kind of thing that might bring you back to a more like humane or empathetic kind of view of life, to where you're like, I know the Bible says this, but it's kind of shitty that they're, you know, that this is happening to these people, this is happening to those people. You know, it's like you essentially want to not lose your humanity in all
Exactly.
of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think like logical me always wanted to know the answer or like figure things out, and I come to the realization that I don't really know anything, you know. And I welcome feedback
Yeah.
and just learning new information all the time, because I think it is okay to be fluid and not necessarily like backtrack and
Contradict what you, yeah.
contradict myself, but be open to not always being right,
Well,
because
and you have
that
to
is
be
definitely
you have to be understanding to the fact that you, in that journey, in that the ebbs and flows of that, you're gonna you're going to contradict yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're and contradictions aren't necessarily a bad thing. Because if you're learning and you're growing, how
Correct.
could you be contradictory to something that you were ignorant to?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like somebody might be like, "Oh, you're being a hypocrite because I remember you when this." It's like, yeah, you remember me when I was a more ignorant version of myself.
Exactly.
So now you're gonna get mad at me for enlightening myself in a way
Or
that
opening up and listening to another side or a
Right.
different perspective.
that you may not be open to listening to now,
Correct.
and now you're calling me a hypocrite just because I don't match with what you match with.
Correct.
And I think that's the problem with society these days, is that we've become so segregated and so divisive in our feelings, in our thoughts,
Especially with social media, like the algorithms are
gearing
gearing
you
us
up. Yeah,
down one way,
100%.
and it feeds you and it hypes you up, and it's like, oh yeah, I knew I was right.
Right.
That I'm right because of this,
Right.
And then there's a whole nother algorithm, saying the other side, and not to say either one is right,
Right.
but it opens your eyes to like, dang, there is different perspective. There
Right.
is a different reason. There is a different side to this.
Right.
And although I don't entirely agree with it, they got a good point right here.
Right.
And
Right.
you could find that on both ends.
Exactly.
So, and we're all still here divided, arguing, no, my side's better because, or my side's more right because of this.
These talking points that I've heard over here.
Correct.
I got these 5 talking points that really like hammered home to me and made me feel, like this is right. And I'm going to hammer those 5 points into you. And you're like, yeah, okay, those are 5 solid points. But there's nuance to the entire situation.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we talked about, especially with this immigration thing, where I'm Hispanic, Latino, and I grew up, I'm first generation American. My parents are both immigrants, right? Came to this country to, again, get away from a country that they were probably like soured on. Like this is, this isn't what I want for my kids and my future, which I think in some sense the United States is kind of getting to that point where you're just kind of like, is this what I want to raise my kids in? Like and people are seriously contemplating fleeing the United States because they're like, I don't know if I want to raise my kids in this kind of environment.
I'm on both ends too.
Right, exactly. And you have your patriotism and I guess your nationalism on one side, and then you have what you want for your future and what you can have for your kids. But there's that same nuance in morality when it comes to illegal immigration. You have people coming over the country illegally committing crimes, not crimes here in the country. It's a crime to come into this country illegally, right? My problem with the Hispanic culture and the Latino culture is that we are so quick to overlook, kind of like you were saying about the Dodgers, where it's like when it's something that hits home to us, we're so quick, or when it's something we associate our culture to, we're so quick to overlook the morality that we're overlooking, or the morality that we're kind of like code that we're breaking, the moral code we're breaking, because they're like, well, nah, are you Hispanic or are you not?
Yeah.
And it's kind of become, and it's this really kind of like weird machismo kind of like culture, part of our culture, where it's like you have to prove, because you are not from Mexico, from Cuba, from Peru, from Honduras, from wherever the hell, you as a first generation American have to prove your loyalty to us and your culture by standing up against the immorality that we're doing and focus on the immorality of another entity, whatever it may be. If it's the government that you feel is being immoral in the way they're rounding people up and stuff like that. So it's like we're quick to sit there and be like, no, and then you ask them like, why are you so convicted? It's like, because I'm Hispanic. Yeah, you're like third generation Hispanic. When was the last time you went to When was the last time you went to the pueblo that your family grew up in? When was the last time you spent a year there and really actually got to like absorb the culture that you come from? You know what I mean? Like, and not to say that there aren't people that do that. There's plenty of people that do that, and they have, and that's probably why they're so convicted in what they do. But what I'm saying is that we have in our culture this weird kind of like, I don't know if it's a stereotype or just like this cloak of you have to prove yourself and your loyalty to your culture by going against your own nationality. You get what I'm saying? You have to say fuck Trump, fuck the United States, fuck all this because viva la raza, or viva Cuba, or whatever the hell, or libertad for Cuba, or whatever it may be. And it's this weird kind of position you put your kids in, yourself in, where it's like you have to then choose a level of morality, again, the nuance in your morality, where it's like, no, I'm okay with people coming across the border illegally. I have no problem with that. It's sending them back that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they may have whatever reason they have to come to this country. It's like, well, you got to understand where the hypocrisy is in that. And you might be fine with it. Yeah, I'm
Totally.
being a
Yeah.
hypocrite, 100%. But I do it because I feel this way. And if that were the case, I respect a lot of it.
Which, you know, that the like immigration process, I mean, at least for liberals, I mean, that was kind of a recent view. Like Obama spoke, you know, Hillary spoke that, you know, there should be an immigration policy. Everything the Republicans are saying right now was a Democratic viewpoint a few years ago. And then the Biden administration kind of just opened the doors and kind of just allowed everything to happen.
Right.
And that's why we're in this current situation. That's why Trump campaigned on that, because the influx of all of the undocumented people.
Right.
And so this is a reaction to that administration's, you know, what they did.
Right.
So, like you said, it's like, okay, we were okay with that. I really wasn't okay with that. Like, we did kind of just open the doors and just say, hey, all right, whatever,
Right.
come in. So it's a effed up situation,
Right.
you know, and it's like, well, where would you draw the line? Were you okay with that?
Right.
And most people are just kind of not even talking about that
Right.
issue right now.
Right.
So, and I don't agree with what's currently happening with this administration.
Right.
Like ICE raids and whatnot. I really do think it's political theater. Mark Walter had made sure we do have the technology to pinpoint who we want, or who these bad people, the worst of the worst that they say, and they're choosing not to do it.
Right.
You know, so that's why I do think it is all for show, and it's unfortunately affecting people's lives, and
Right.
and that's definitely not cool.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just in this world of contradiction where I'm just like, man, and it is a revelation where it's just like, dang, I kind of just want to time out and want my brain to rest, because
Right.
it's going, it's at a point where I'm like, just, man,
It's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really have much, you know, control over any of it.
No.
Just the way I,
Right.
you know, respond
React
to
to
it.
it.
So
Yeah. It's and we'll get probably on the second shutter if we get into it. There's like what we were talking about, the difference in the algorithm, and we even said that, in future episodes, what we might do, we might just compare Roman's algorithm to my algorithm, and we'll come up with a topic, and you guys let us know if you guys think this is a good idea. We'll come up with a topic, and we'll see what Roman's algorithm says about it, and we'll see what my algorithm says about it, and then we'll see where they intertwine in a sense,
yeah, I
and
think you and I would have a good
debate or
difference in
in
algorithm.
algorithm.
I really, I think there are more far right people than you and more far left people than me.
100%.
So that would be kind of cool to see as well.
But I think the echo chambers that our algorithms have created for us specifically are like, hey,
Yeah.
I need to get him more on the left. Hey, I need to get him more on
True,
the right.
yeah.
And then it's up to us to be like, nah, they're kind of crazy. Like, this is wild. And I think that's why a lot of people are getting radicalized in that sense, because they're looking at it and they're saying, like, I like this, or like I like 3 or 4 Charlie Kirk videos where he's saying something, or I'm just kind of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And then you see a few Charlie Kirk videos where it's the opposite, where he's saying some shit that sounds ridiculous, and you're just going, they're like, oh, you like, your algorithm starts saying like, oh, you like this, okay, cool. Let me start packing on some of the crazy stuff about this side, and then people start like going down those rabbit holes, and then they end up really getting like radicalized in a year from now, and not so much radicalized in the sense of like,
crazy,
you're going to become a jihadist or anything like that, but from where you were a year ago to where you're are now,
totally down.
You're completely different from the person that you once were, and I think ultimately everyone is just trying to steer themselves back to like the middle, like, because that even like Bill Maher has talked about how I didn't become less liberal. The liberals have shifted way farther left than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
I'm still a Democrat. I'm still liberal. I'm still right here. And I think a lot of Republicans are the same way. They're like, I'm still Republican. I'm still have my views.
I think the majority of people are like that, right?
Well,
it's just we're kind of led to believe like, oh no,
Right.
you hear one one thing that goes against your thoughts, and
Right.
you just kind of throw them in that bucket, like, oh, they're a woke leftist,
Yeah.
or they're radical Republican.
Yeah, or exactly, or yeah, you get lumped into that boat of the radical, and you're like, no,
Yeah,
like
dude,
yeah, don't
don't
sit
throw
there.
me in
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Like I may be conservative, I may be Republican, I'm not MAGA.
Yeah,
You know, and then even MAGA's like, look, we may be MAGA, but we're not Nazis. You
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? And then it's like there's nuance to it all, and the fact that people have just totally lost the sight of what it means to have any kind of nuance or any kind of like subjective reasoning in the way things go is kind of crazy. We're gonna go ahead and reset, and we'll be right back. And I'm in